Welcome to Coffee, Culture, and the Capital with Sophia and Greg.
Hello, everyone, and happy Veterans Day. If you're watching, not just via Zoom or Apple Podcasts, Spotify, but if you're actually watching the YouTube video and all that, you'll see I have my little American flag shirt on.
So patriotic you are.
But we just want to say thank you to all of those who currently serve and who have served, and the service to this country so we can live freely and so we can have our biblical values that we work so hard to keep in California. So thank you to all of you who have served, and we at California Family Council are much appreciative of you all. But with that, there has been so much going on the last 2 weeks. Oh, yes, Greg, what do you have there to drink?
I have just a regular coffee, Starbucks, but I have a new Keurig coffee maker that I'm very impressed with. Instead of the one little thing that pokes into the pod, it now has 5 claws that poke in there. So the coffee's much better now.
There you go.
So,
I didn't know
my
it had
other one just broke.
I don't have coffee right now. I have this drink. It's called Defy, and it has no artificial sweeteners, electrolytes, and antioxidant-infused pineapple mango. I've had a lot of coffee today already, so I thought I needed to cut back on the caffeine. But if you have been paying attention to anything, you know things have been crazy the last week. We had the election last Tuesday. Last Monday, we had our election prayer vigil, which was a phenomenal event. We had pastors. We had some of our fellow allies that lead different organizations. So pregnancy care centers, Love Life, all these different groups came together, and we just surrendered our state, our nation to God. And so if you haven't watched that yet, go check it out on our YouTube channel or on our Facebook page. It is a wonderful time just to sit in prayer, sit in worship. So that was Monday. Tuesday's election day. And so there has been a lot of things going on, not just nationally, though. Our governor, Gavin Newsom, has had a lot of things to say since the election, which I don't think anyone is shocked by. But it has been interesting to kind of watch what he's been doing, how California has been reacting to the election. So, Greg, what is Governor Gavin Newsom up to?
Well, he's a little upset, a little concerned that President Trump is back. And that means the federal government is going to change and the policies are going to change. And it's really going to be a real big breather for us at the Capitol to know that the administration is going to be a lot more friendly than a Kamala administration, Kamala Harris administration would have been. And so we are excited about that. But obviously, Governor Newsom is not. And so I don't know, it was the day after or after it was clear that Trump was winning in all the swing states, he put out a press release and a resolution. He's going to have a special session to deal with the Trump administration. So he is very concerned about a couple things. Let me just tell you some of the things. He put out a proclamation by the governor. I have it right here. And it says the top thing he's concerned about is that the Trump administration will continue its assault on reproductive freedom, meaning abortion, by limiting access to medication abortion. We always call it chemical abortion because pregnancy doesn't need medicine, right? It's not a disease that you cure. Expanding. He's upset that there could be expanding conscience protections for employers and providers. So that means he's upset that the federal government might protect doctors and hospitals who don't want to do abortions from not doing them. The Attorney General here in California just went after a hospital up in Eureka because they didn't give an abortion to someone that wanted one. And so he's concerned about that. And so he's also concerned about a national abortion ban, which President Trump said he's not going to do, sadly. But he's still out there promoting that that's what's going to happen. And so he's also concerned about immigration, that immigration laws are going to be enforced. And I'm also just turning to his press release here. It says he is concerned that an agenda could erode essential freedoms and individual rights. He's talking about abortion. And then he also says, including LGBTQ rights. So now what rights is Trump going to threaten regarding LGBTQ? Well, what he's going to threaten is the Q, which is those identifying as transgender, those who are all the men invading women's sports, the puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones that are declared an essential right here in California for minors. That's going to be threatened, and all I can say to that is amen. And we have some clips here from starting with Governor Newsom, and then we'll show you some clips that we found from Trump, kind of expressing what we just said, and you can understand why Newsom would be concerned based on what Trump says. So we'll let you hear those. Here they go.
We have a president-elect, and I'm one of those people. I revere the institution. I revere this country. I revere the presidency, and I want our president to succeed. And our job, my job, is not to wake up every single day and get a crowbar and try to put it in the spokes of the wheel of the Trump administration. And so again, in that spirit of an open hand, not a closed fist, that's how we want to proceed. That said, fourth point, I'm not naive either, and we're pragmatic, and we will stand firm. I am reminded, there's a great old poem about, the winds may howl, but I will not be swept away. This notion that we have to plant our feet. And I remember, I've been here long enough, having worked with the previous Trump administration, I'm not naive about those wins, and they did howl. We were involved in over 100, well, in fact, we were involved in specifically 122 lawsuits with the Trump administration. We know their playbook. We know what they're going to do. I talked a lot about the campaign, and I appreciated Kamala Harris's closing message about Donald Trump has an enemies list, and she said, have a to-do list. I said I would make it a modest addendum to that. So did Donald Trump. That to-do list is laid out in a 922-page document, of which there's 270 specific points that he has publicly supported in that Project 2025 document, which 75% of its authors, and there's a multitude of authors, worked with the Trump administration. None of us are naive when he said he knew nothing about it. That is a to-do list. That is a playbook. The Heritage Foundation and others backing that playbook. You build on that, not naive about what to anticipate.
It's been interesting to watch how he's handled this. And first of all, the lies he is spewing about the Heritage Foundation and Project 2025. But I mean, Greg, based off of what Newsom just said there, based off of the press release that you read from his office, Newsom is upset that women would lose the right to kill their baby, which President-elect Trump already said he would not instate a federal abortion ban. I wish he would, but he's not. So one, there's nothing changing necessarily there, especially in California, where abortion, is safe, legal, and rare. Now it's everywhere, anywhere, all the time, as many as possible. So I don't know why Governor Newsom's upset about that. Then the next thing he's upset about is the immigration. So Governor Newsom apparently wants all these illegal immigrants here, all these illegal aliens here, and we're going to see more stories like the girl Laken Riley, who was murdered by one. We're seeing stories pop up left and right, and not all illegal immigrants are murdering and raping people, but a significant amount is, and we should stop that from even coming into our country. And then he's also mad about the fact that President-elect Trump is saying that men shouldn't be in women's sports anymore, and is also saying that children shouldn't be getting medically castrated, getting double mastectomies as a 14-year-old girl, having their puberty blockers given to them, basically being sterilized. That's what Governor Newsom's upset about, correct?
No, right. I mean, California has made itself a sanctuary for kids from around the country to come to California if they can't get puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, and surgeries in their home state. California will take temporary jurisdiction of that child, even that child has come here brought by anyone but their parent. It's a crazy thing. And so I hope that the federal government sues California for violating parental rights in that case, right? And, you know, and another thing about the Heritage Foundation, you know, we think it's a great organization, but really they have their own agenda and they're putting it out there, promoting it. And I don't know why they keep repeating that this is Trump's plan. You know, I wish it was Trump's plan, but you know, it wasn't something Trump came up with. So why do you keep saying it? I don't even understand. You keep lying about it over and over. It is odd. And the fact that he said he's not going to want to stick a stick in the spokes of the new administration, but he wants all this extra money to file lawsuits. How many did they file last time? 122? What is that? Isn't that a lot of frivolous lawsuits filed against the federal government just to gum up the works? I don't know. So that, you know, and so that's my initial reaction. But I know you got some actual quotes from Trump himself. So why don't you play those?
Yeah, let's check that out. So this first clip is what Trump has to say about children having all these surgeries, mutilating their bodies. And he actually said this back in January of 2023.
On day one, I will revoke Joe Biden's cruel policies on so-called gender-affirming care. Ridiculous. A process that includes giving kids puberty blockers, mutating their physical appearance, and ultimately performing surgery on minor children. Can you believe this? I will sign a new executive order instructing every federal agency to cease all programs that promote the concept of sex and gender transition at any age. I will then ask Congress to permanently stop federal taxpayer dollars from being used to promote or pay for these procedures and pass a law prohibiting child sexual mutilation in all 50 states. It'll go very quickly. I will declare that any hospital or healthcare provider that participates in the chemical or physical mutilation of minor youth will no longer meet federal health and safety standards for Medicaid and Medicare and will be terminated from the program immediately. Furthermore, I will support the creation of a private right of action for victims to sue doctors who have unforgivably performed these procedures on minor children. The Department of Justice will investigate Big Pharma and the big hospital networks to determine whether they have deliberately covered up horrific long-term side effects of sex transitions in order to get rich at the expense of vulnerable patients, in this case, very vulnerable. We will also investigate whether Big Pharma or others have illegally marketed hormones and puberty blockers which are in no way licensed or approved for this use. My Department of Education will inform states and school districts that if any teacher or school official suggests to a child that they could be trapped in the wrong body, they will be faced with severe consequences, including potential civil rights violations for sex discrimination and the elimination of federal funding. As part of our new credentialing body for teachers, we will promote positive education about the nuclear family, the roles of mothers and fathers, and celebrating rather than erasing the things that make men and women different and unique. I will ask Congress to pass a bill establishing that the only genders recognized by the United States government are male and female, and they are assigned at birth. The bill will also make clear that Title IX prohibits men from participating in women's sports, and we will protect the rights of parents from being forced to allow their minor child to assume a gender which is new and an identity without the parent's consent. The identity will not be new, and it will not be without parental consent. No serious country should be telling its children that they were born with the wrong gender, a concept that was never heard of in all of human history. Nobody's ever heard of this, what's happening today. It was all when the radical left invented it just a few years ago. Under my leadership, this madness will end. Thank you very much.
Honestly, you know what? That brings tears to my eyes. I cannot believe a leader would say something that clear about the horrific madness that has enveloped our entire culture on this whole issue, that you could be born in the wrong body and then we're going to medically mutilate yourself to make you look like the opposite sex. I mean, if he does all that, it's over for this whole madness that we've been involved with. He hit what's happening in schools. He's hit what was happening in the medical industry, the counseling, it all. I mean, I don't know how it's going to survive if the federal government comes after it. All the hospitals that are covering up information. It was just revealed in the New York Times that they had a study the federal government paid for talking about they were looking to see if giving kids puberty blockers actually helped their mental health. And it did not, but they didn't want to release the stats or release the study results because they were afraid it would hurt their whole agenda. And so you read about that. It's in the New York Times. And so anyway, I know he said that a year ago. I hope, and they're playing it now. So we got to hold him to the fire to make sure he go and fulfills what he just said. But that's unbelievable.
Absolutely. And Greg, like you said, he really did hit all the points. He talked about the education system. He talked about the medical system. He brought up Title IX and getting that back to what it should be. The issue of men and women's sports. I mean, people can sit here and say, oh, well, just let people live their lives. But that's not what this is about. Or again, we are watching children be sterilized at 13, 14, 15 years old. We are watching women have to be naked in locker rooms next to men that have fully intact, exposing male genitalia. And that just is allowed to happen right now. There are so many things going on. Women are being raped in prisons right now because there's male inmates in women's prisons because they're identifying as a woman. We are seeing so much happen because of this. Like Greg said, it shows that children going through puberty blockers does not help with their mental health. It actually makes it worse. And so we have all of this to show how horrible it is, how this is affecting society, how it's affecting the kids that are going through it, how it's affecting everyone else around them, how women's spaces are completely not safe anymore, how young boys are being tricked that they can be girls for some reason, and they're going through all these changes with their body. And he clearly said in that video that he wants to put a stop to all of this. And I mean, like you said, Greg, now it's time to hold them accountable to it, to make sure this does happen and to stand up and support it. And even from a Christian point of view, if you're sitting here watching and you're like, I don't really know if I should be speaking on this or saying much about it because he's a politician, I'm a Christian, we shouldn't be talking about this. Is the Bible not clear, literally in the first chapter of the first book, that God made us male and female? If we can't get the first chapter of the first book right of the Bible, how are we going to get anything else right? God makes it so clear he does not make mistakes when he made us. He knit us together in our mother's wombs. He made us male and female. So absolutely, as Christians, we should be standing up for the truth that no child was born in the wrong body, that no child is a mistake, and that we shouldn't be letting children harm themselves. As Christians, we should be standing up against the injustice of men entering women's spaces, of women being sexually assaulted because men are allowed into women's spaces. So absolutely, as a Christian, you should be standing up against this. You should be speaking out against this. And you should also be holding politicians who make such promises accountable. And so that's what we're doing here at CUC. We're here to expose, to let people know what's going on, and to hold people accountable to do what's right, to do what they say. And so I hope that's what we see play out, not just in the next 4 years, but in the next first year of his second term.
All right.
But with that, there's also not just federal stuff going on that's good. There is stuff here in the state of California that is, we've seen a great wave of changes in school boards. And I just want to again note, California Family Council, we are a nonpartisan organization. We simply stand up for biblical values. We don't serve any elected official. We don't serve the government. We serve God and God alone. And so we are going to stand for biblical issues. So when there are elected officials that are going to defend our values, that are going to allow us to have the freedoms for our values, we're going to keep you guys informed. And that's simply what we're doing here, is making sure you recognize where the biblical values are being protected. And so we can continue to stand for what's right. But Greg, what is the great wave we've kind of seen happen in California just since this election?
Well, yeah, I mean, you probably know if you've watched us for the last couple of years, we've been working with other similar organizations like ours defending parental rights. A lot of our allies have been trying to stand up in local school districts for parental notification policies. These are policies where we're pushing back against this state policy that tells schools that if a kid changes their pronoun and their name at school, if they want to be a different gender, they can do that at school, but bygone it. I'm not sure that I must be saying that wrong. The teachers are not allowed to tell the parents. So parents are kept in the dark. They're keeping secrets about a kid's gender confusion at school. The more kids are being taught that gender is something everybody gets to decide, it's not surprising that more and more kids decide they're not the gender that they really are. They're not the sex they really are. So we've been pushing back, and we've got a lot of opposition. We got school boards, the unions, the federal, the state government, Bonta and Tony Thurmond, our state superintendent, the governor have been pushing back, condemning these school boards that would pass these policies. Well, we had an election, and we started looking to see how many of the pro-parental rights candidates have won their elections. And I'm happy to say that as I'm collecting names, they seem to be winning overwhelmingly. I have a list here. We're going to put out a press release tomorrow, and I'm right now we have a list of 27 candidates.
Woo!
Pro-parental right parents who have agreed to say, yes, I'm pro-parental rights, and I just won my election. That's what I ran on. And these are they don't have a lot of money behind them. These are candidates who had to raise their own money, knock on lots of doors. They are almost universally, I can say universally, they are opposed by the teachers union. And the teachers union usually funds school board candidates by tens and thousands of dollars. They hardly have to do the candidate hardly has to do any fundraising of their own. They just are funded by the teachers union. And the teachers union hate parental notification. They hate parental parents being intimately involved on this issue. And so I think this is great. And I was talking to a candidate who just won their election by almost 60%. And he was telling me that he was opposed by the union. He was actually part of the union in LA a couple years ago. And when he saw them turning against parents, teachers that didn't want to get the vaccine and was forcing them to get the vaccine, even though the vaccine was not preventing the spread of the disease, right? Lots of them were losing their jobs. They sued. They won in the courts. But he also was, as he was going door to door, he went door to door himself. Thousands of doors he knocked on, and he won, right? And he had to raise his own money. He was doing this all himself. He didn't have a big party behind him. And he said one of the biggest issues he was running into as he was going door to door is the parents were concerned about the sexualized books that were in their school libraries. That was one issue. And that they were also concerned that teachers where and school administrators were keeping secrets about kids' gender identity. They were keeping that from the parents. Those were the big issues the parents were concerned about. And when they heard that he was on their side, they voted for him. And that's what we're seeing across the state. Mm-hmm. So this is very encouraging. There needs to be an in-depth dive. I hope the media starts covering it. But all those folks who thought that you can't run on parental rights and win, I think there's a move happening here that parents are now realizing they need to change the candidates in their school boards. They need to change their elected officials and only elect pro-parental rights candidates. And this is a nonpartisan issue, right? The school district must respect the rights of parents to oversee the raising of their kids. No secrets allowed. Stop keeping secrets. So this is very encouraging, and I'm encouraged.
Absolutely. It's great news. And like Greg said, sending that press release out tomorrow. It's currently Monday, November 11th. So tomorrow will be Tuesday, the 12th. That will be out. Head to californiafamily.org. Click the blog link. You'll see all the different blogs on different things we've talked about today. That's how you can stay up to date. Head to californiafamily.org to also sign up for our newsletter. You'll get weekly updates about what is going on at the Capitol and across the state of California. And follow along on our social media, on our Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all of those to also see daily updates about what is happening, what California Family Council is doing, and the good news that we just shared with you all today. But with that, we will see you all next time.